Doc, good morning. Thanks for your time this morning. So what do we mean when we talk about formal protection of these resources?
Thanks for having me here. The study that we have conducted for the Water Research Commission was to try and identify areas from which we're getting most of our water. And these areas are small pockets of land that are scattered throughout the country. And they are not big areas, but they are important in the sense that they bring most of the water that we drink in our urban areas, that we use for irrigation and so on. But what we have found in these areas, that these areas are not protected. The protection that we're talking about is there is no law that says you can't do a particular economic activity that will potentially contaminate or pollute these water resources. So the formal protection that we're talking about, it relates to a legislation that will say, that will limit any land use that will potentially lead to adverse effects on those water resources.
So what is happening at the moment, and where are you seeing the most damage being done?
Well, firstly, the study itself has just identified these areas.
Okay.
We have not identified them before. We delineated them, we mapped them. And then we looked at the study as whether their supply of water is of such significance that they need some form of protection. And we identify the potential impacts that the land uses in these areas may have on our water resources. So what we have recommended in that is that the government should look into policies and some regulations on try and formally protect these areas if there is a way to do that. And I'm sure there is, because the law allows that we protect these areas for the benefit of our water security as a country.
So when you say protection, are we saying, for example, things like don't allow developments to come up around these, don't sort of urbanize those areas?
Yes, there are certain land uses that could potentially have adverse effects on the water quantities and qualities in these areas. The example, let me use one example. If there is a mining activity in an area, the open cast mining as an example, then it will potentially affect the infiltration of water into the underground resources. And about the acid mine drainage, the pollution, the contamination as a result of the mining activities on the one hand. And also in agriculture, this commercial agriculture, commercial forestry, and that we know, forestry use quite a bit of water from our system. So if you plant a commercial forest in these areas, it has the potential to abstract most of this water, and by extension affecting the quantity of the water that can be provided by such an area.
So are those the main culprits that you've identified? Will it be agriculture and mining?
They are not the only ones.
Yeah? The
urbanization, for instance, that we mentioned earlier, the expansion of these impermeable surfaces that do not allow water to infiltrate into the water systems is also a big problem. And on top of that, with the urban areas, you're creating these huge concrete structures that makes it impossible for water to infiltrate into the soils and underground water resources. So those are some of the culprits. There are many others, but the big ones are those ones: the mining, the agriculture, and so on and so forth. So by protection, we're calling upon the government to look at limiting or prohibiting some certain land uses in those areas.
So how urgent is this? I mean, how urgent and just how close to the danger are we? How close to running out are we if this is not done as soon as possible?
The study has just been published, and initially, before the publication of the study, we did not initially know the extent to which we are in danger. But now we have a bigger picture and a clear picture on how dangerous this could be in terms of the water security for the country. It is quite urgent that there should be some form of protection as soon as we can. The government should just gazette this and declare these areas as national assets. And if we don't do that as quickly as we can, they will continue to be these expansions of the land uses that can potentially impact these areas.
Okay, so you, like you said, the study has just come out.
Yeah.
Have you had any response from government? How long does it take usually to get some kind of commitment from them?
We have presented the findings to line function departments that have responsibility over the protection of these areas. The Department of Water and Sanitation, Department of Environmental Affairs and other government departments. And they have taken this as a priority and they need to do something about it as soon as they can. There has been a huge response. Today there is a launch of this study by the same departments, Department of Water and Sanitation, and giving this a priority, and they will find a mechanism to try and develop a policy and some regulations to protect these areas.
Some laws. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. That's Dr. Wandile Nomgupu. He's just talking to us about the report about protecting our water resources.